Before I start part 2, I need to address something from part 1. It's regarding the article Brad wrote entitled Brad's Butt Beauties. There was a second edition of the series, except this time there was a slight difference. I somehow missed this in my research, so I thought it was important to include this before part 2 starts. I'll let Brad fill you in on the details. Backed by popular demand, it's Brad's Butt Beauties, the AEW Men's Edition. When I first created my list for WWE's women, it was arguably the hottest topic online within the wrestling community for days. Let's be honest here, the wrestlers on my list work hard on their physiques and put them on display in HD every week on network TV. If anything, a list like this is a compliment to their hard work and dedication. Truthfully, I had zero intent to do a list for men. It's a little out of my comfort zone, but I received a lot of feedback that if I'm going to do a list for women, I should do one for men or I'm a big sexist meanie pants, which is complete bullshit, but some friends began suggesting over and over and over that I should actually do it. I think they just wanted a good laugh. Considering I have no shame, and I was tired of them suggesting it, I decided to do it. There's an audience for this, and plus, a good butt is a good butt, right? So I began talking with my wife, other women, and men in the LGBTQ+ community. If I were going to do this, I decided that I wanted to do it right. The research was intense and time involved. It had to be accurate, much like my wrestling news reports. Looking at the criteria, much of the same that applied to my women's list still applies to the men. There are 5 basic booty shapes: the square butt, the round butt, the pear butt, the inverted butt, and the baby got back butt. If you've got an inverted, aka pancake ass, or a hairy ass, you're automatically out. With that said, it's time for my list, so batten down the hatches. This article received little to no negative feedback. In fact, it was largely ignored, despite the fact that it contained the exact same content as the previous article about the women. The only difference is, this time, it was about the men. Interesting. And now, part 2. Do even the slightest amount of research on Brad Shepard, and you'll quickly see tweets from people who call him a fake journalist that lies and makes up stories for clicks. I asked Shepard about this point blank. Here was his response. I'm not a wrestling journalist. I don't want to be a wrestling journalist. I don't want to be Dave Meltzer. I don't want to be 60 years old and arguing online with fans at 5:30 in the morning about fake fights. If I were overly concerned with what people thought, they wouldn't be talking about me today. Instead, they'd be wondering who is Brad Shepard, just like I wonder who they are today. I listen to the people I trust and drown the noise out. So there you have it. Case closed. He doesn't call himself a wrestling journalist, so that covers that criticism, right? Yes and no. While he may never directly call himself a journalist on his Twitter feed, he will make tweets like this one where someone could easily assume otherwise. There isn't a single journalist reporting on wrestling who's more talked about than I am, and largely by those who've never even talked to me. Not Meltzer, not Satin, not one. People who put me under a microscope would crumble under the daily scrutiny and attacks I receive. However, the champ is still here. We'll move on from that, as I feel like it's a pretty minor criticism since Shepard instantly denied being or wanting to be a wrestling journalist to me, and aside from some tweets that could easily be misinterpreted, I couldn't find a single instance of Shepard making the claim that he is, in fact, a wrestling journalist. Another often debated topic regarding Shepard is the legitimacy of his sources. This is something that people argue about almost on a daily basis. In fact, as I was writing this video, I checked Twitter for a brief second and the following popped up onto my timeline. Satin got the job at WWE for being good at his job. He gets stories wrong, like Sasha and Bayley crying, but his track record speaks for itself. Brad Shepard makes up stories. He also has no sources. Shepard was never considered for backstage. Nobody in WWE knows who he is. Here's what Shepard had to say about his sources. I don't have a singular source in pro wrestling or in WWE. My track record dating back to last fall has been flat out exceptional, all things considered. Most of it you can read for yourself on my Twitter account. There are fans talking online who have no idea of the reality of the situation. It really exposes them as not understanding the process. Now, I didn't want to spend too much time on this topic because the truth of the matter is this. I have no verifiable way to confirm or deny Shepard's claims here. However, a friend of mine who wishes to remain anonymous is friends with Shepard, and he reached out to me with the following. My friend starts things off here with, from my observations, he usually gets hated because of the following. Not a big fan of women's wrestling and makes fun of it. Makes fun of Meltzer, Satin, Sap, PW Insider, PW Torch, etc. often. Can be a bit of a braggart. So he's got a lot of odd wrestling stands always mad at him. He does actually have sources, which is always entertaining to see people claim otherwise. I respond, you've seen proof he has sources? I actually trust you, so if you say it, I'm inclined to believe it. My friend then presents some anecdotal evidence. Brad's personally told me the location of WrestleMania for about 3 years now before it broke on the Twitter web, among a few other things. My friend then goes on to present 2 very convincing pieces of evidence. Unfortunately, he asked me not to share them, so I won't. However, I'm showing them here because of my reaction. Down at the bottom, I state, interesting. I won't mention this in the video, but I feel more confident now in the fact that he does actually have sources. Personally, the information that was shared with me in those DMs led me to believe that Shepard does in fact have sources like he claims to. I know as they're presented now, it's incredibly weak, but I merely felt like it should be included in the interest of full transparency. Originally, that was the end of this part of the video. It really didn't sit right with me. I felt like providing blurred out screenshots was very weak, and I almost cut this part entirely out. And then I got another screenshot from my friend. Now, before we take a look at that screenshot, we have to take a look at this one for context. On June 24th at 11:13 p.m., and the time is important here, WWE's Renee Young announced that she was one of the many people infected with COVID-19 within the company. The day before, Shepard received the following DM, which he then sent a screenshot of to my friend at 11:40 p.m. on June 24th.
But broski, that's after Renee's announcement. Are you high?
Yes. But also, if you look at the timestamp in the screenshots sent to Shepard, you can clearly see that those were sent to him at 6:29 p.m. the day before on June 23rd, almost a full 24 hours before Renee Young's announcement. This further cemented my belief that Shepard does in fact have at least one credible source within the industry. There are some people who have taken their interactions with Shepard to the next level. I like to call these people the detractors. Anyone with any kind of fan base is going to have detractors, and Brad Shepard is no different. Let's start with one of Shepard's more well-known blunders, the Ballers situation. Ballers is an American comedy drama television series created by Steven Levinson and starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Johnson plays Spencer Strasmore, a retired NFL player who must navigate his new career of choice as the financial manager of other NFL players. In his own words, here's Shepard's recollection of events as it relates to the Ballers situation. Sometimes the trolls win, but you do have to wonder how sad life is for the person who did this. I received an email that my story on the return of the XFL would be briefly mentioned on the new season of Ballers. I was wrapped up in work and frankly, not paying attention. It wasn't even necessarily something out of the realm of possibilities, which I don't think everyone understands, but it was a troll posing as the actual contact. I became suspicious when I wanted to chat on the phone and they pushed back. Either way, it was great press for me. No press is bad press, with few exceptions. Followers of my work found me because of that, so I guess I should say thank you. Shepard may have been suspicious, but that still didn't stop him from bragging to Sean Ross Sapp about the supposed shoutout in Sapp's DMs. Shepard and Sapp, they don't like each other. At the top of the screenshot, Sapp initially takes a shot at Shepard over something I'm not familiar with, so I won't comment, but Shepard replies, "Oh, hey Sean, make sure to check out my XFL story mentioned by The Rock on the season premiere of Ballers." Sapp responds, "I'll do that. Will he also mention the dozens of stories you've made up, because that would be appointment viewing, I tell you what. Congrats on your massive success and almost being as tall as me." Oh, how petty wrestling journalists are. Moving away from Ballers, it's now time to take a look at the self-destruction of a fake wrestling journalist situation. At first, this was supposed to be a small part in the detractors segment of the video, but there is so much to cover here that I decided to give it its own part entirely. I think it's the perfect showcase of how far some have gone to discredit Shepard, so let's get right into it. Matt Kuhn, I swear to God, that's his name, is a music producer, writer, and performer. He also used to host a podcast called Total Engagement. Matt did an episode on Shepard entitled The Self-Destruction of a Fake Wrestling Journalist. Let's take a listen.
That a guest I had, Brad Shepard, was definitely a fraud, and I apologized for it. And I guess it was stupid of me not to think he'd clap back. And Brad Shepard said some stuff on his podcast.
Because
this is it.
There is a wrestling podcasting leech who's clout chasing.
That's me. I'm the clout chasing podcasting leech. I'm not sure what that means exactly. He definitely came after me. That's not enough for me. And he came after a friend of mine too. And he came after our sponsor and a bunch of other people because he's spinning in a circle. He's out of control. He's melting down. Before I outed his fraudness on Twitter, I actually reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I know you're fake. I think what you need to do is come clean, because it seems to me if you're lying, that's one thing. If you think you're telling the truth, you might be mentally ill." He told me not only was he not mentally ill, but it was the biggest insult I could think of to call him mentally ill. Brad Shepard says he has sources. He has many, many sources. And when he gets a story, he gets pictures of stuff. And he gets DMs and he gets emails, and not just one source, multiple sources. Well, I got news for you, Brad. And this is how I know that Brad's a fake. Because I am a Brad Shepard source. So I made my very first and only burner account. And I DM'd Brad a story I just fucking made up. Meanwhile, I'm DMing him personally from my Matt Kuhn account. And since the story involved people I knew, he asked me about it. And I said, "Hey man, I heard a rumor like that, third hand." Again, it was something I made up. Motherfucker ran it. And then I'm like, maybe this is a one-time thing, because Matt Kuhn's involved. So I made a fake Gmail account called Brad's Friend. And I started feeding him information. That to find out if the guest I had was a fraud or not, I found out he was a fraud. Because I gave him information, never proved in the slightest that I was a verifiable source, and he tweeted out stuff I just made up. I will point you to a tweet by Brad Shepard and an email from me, which I'll post online. And it literally says WednesdayNightWar.com, WednesdayNightWars.com. The war is real. That's all I sent him. And WednesdayNightWar.com went to WWE, and WednesdayNightWars.com went to AEW. He put that out there. And a matter of fact, Forbes magazine, like the Money magazine, has a wrestling article, and they even put out an article saying that AEW seemingly purchases these domains. So I gave that to him. Now, again, maybe I'm making it up. Maybe I photoshopped that. Maybe I'm making this up, except for one thing. If you go to Brad's Twitter, if you go to Forbes, if you go to a lot of different sources online, if you look up WednesdayNightWar.com domains, you'll see that the story was done. And I don't know how to say this. I own those domains. I bought them. They're mine for like $10 a piece. It was one of many things I just thought of creatively. I'm a creative guy, to send Brad to see if he would print it. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on Total Engagement. If you want to share the news that, yes, he's putting out news that he says he's real, but he is not. Because some idiot fan guitar player actually was able just to open up a fake account and send Brad information. He passed it along, and Ringside News passed it along. Again, I think Ringside News should probably sever ties, and I think they should offer me an apology and make a statement. And I think, Brad, you do what you do. You can take me on. You can clap back, but I think I've said what I've had to say. I don't think there's really anything else to say.
While many consider this to be a massive blow to Shepard's credibility, which I gotta be honest, it kind of is, this doesn't prove that Shepard makes anything up, which is why I have trouble with this criticism. All the Ballers situation and Matt's podcast prove is that Shepard needs to do a better job at vetting his sources. Ironically, the only people making anything up here are the people criticizing Shepard for allegedly doing the same thing. You gotta love the internet. But wait. There's more. I decided to ask Shepard about Matt directly, and my oh my, it seems we have ourselves a little smear merchant on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I don't mean for this to turn into a Defend Brad Shepard video, but I'm 100% in his corner on this one. If there's one thing I truly detest, it's people who create their own narratives by omitting certain things to change the context, which in turn makes the person in question look much, much worse than they actually might be. Now, remember the Wednesday Night War domain situation that Matt created to trick Shepard? Here's the original email Shepard received from Matt under his alias of friend. And here's Shepard's reply, immediately poking holes in the narrative here by pointing out that the domains were fan-created and do not belong to WWE. Regardless, Shepard decided to post about it to his Twitter feed a few hours later. The tweets read as follows. The Wednesday Night War is real. This is interesting. Check out where both links redirect to. Shepard received so many comments that he was making things up that he decided to clarify what he meant with the original tweet. He says, and for the idiots, I'm not saying WWE and AEW did this, just that it's cool. After his podcast on Shepard dropped, Matt put out the following. Now take a look here. If you notice, the email and one of Shepard's tweets we just looked at are included. However, his response to the email and his follow-up tweet were conveniently left out of Matt's post. Now, I'm speculating here, but I guess they didn't fit the narrative he was going for. Just a thought. Matt also mentioned a situation where Shepard got in touch with him about people that Matt knows. Those people are Bruce Pritchard and Vince Russo. Bruce Pritchard is the executive director of both Raw and SmackDown. Vince Russo is one of the most controversial figures in wrestling, writing for both WWE and WCW at the height of wrestling's popularity during the Attitude Era. Some fans blame Russo as the sole reason for WCW's demise in March 2001. Here is the DM exchange Matt mentions on his podcast. We start things off with Shepard here. He says, so that convo started because an anonymous account DM'd me that Pritchard prevented Russo from returning to the company. Then Shepard goes on to share the screenshot and it says, hey, Vince Russo was presented by VKM, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, as someone to bring on to help with writing and big picture planning. Pritchard nixed it. It's true. You're welcome. Shepard goes on to say, I could never verify that as true or not, but it started the convo where it made clear how they feel about him. And Matt responds with, wow. Shepard goes on to say that convo about Russo wasn't with the Anon guy, but someone I know in management in WWE. But very interesting. Shepard then goes on to attach another screenshot, and it says, that's all I know about that. If I hear more, I'll let you know. I hate how you've been attacked. Thanks. Do you have an email? I don't like Twitter. And then Shepard proceeds to share his email with this anonymous source. Brad then continues and says, so we'll see if I hear more. Matt responds with, off record, so I definitely heard the same thing fourth hand that Anon guy said. The two guys in between Bruce and me in that telephone game are extremely reliable. Your life is weird. Shepard responds, very, if people only knew. When I asked Shepard about this situation, here's what he had to say. So as you can see, I didn't just take the Anon guy's word for it. I went to Matt, who at the time was my friend, and asked him about it. Matt had just wrapped up working for Russo on the brand, and of course was buddies with Conrad and Bruce and that whole gang. And again, he lied to his audience and told them that I just reported this based off an anonymous source, which unknowingly was him, my friend at the time, when in fact, I actually went back to him with this info and asked him about it, and he was my confirming source, because I thought he'd know best. I think a valid criticism here would be that Brad was a little naive and far too trusting. But when you consider the following DM message received only a month before all of this went down, it does start to make a little more sense. Matt starts things off, "Hey man, if you ever need a guest co-host, holler. Enjoy the work." Shepard responds, "Thanks Matt, I appreciate that. I feel our show is much better when I have John to play off of. You do a great job solo, which isn't easy. By the way, I enjoy your show." Matt responds, "Solo is super tough. That's why I offered. Thanks man, I'm still new to it, doing my best. Big fan, keep it up." Shepard responds, "I'd love to have you on sometime. Thanks again."
Hey guys, just between you and me, this Matt guy reeks of a clout chaser.
Of course, this eventually led to a confrontation. Shocking. I know, here it is. Matt starts things off with, "Think about it, dude. You can own up to what you've done and be better from this point forward if you wanted. I wish you luck, but make no mistake, I know what you are. Dave is Dave, but he doesn't invent news, man. That's wrong. And borderline mentally ill if you're not doing it as a joke. Take care." Shepard responds, "Man, your take here is wildly wrong. You're painfully uninformed of some things which could be explained to you if you bothered asking. Instead, it sounds like you've been drinking the Sean Ross sap less more Kool-Aid lately. That's a shame, because I've always been nice to you, Matt. You will eventually find they turn on you too. Just as Dave did." Shepard continues, "I've never made up a single report, Matt. Not one. Ever. All of my reports have a provable documentation trail from people in WWE/pro wrestling, which anyone could see if I choose to give them access. I really get nothing out of it but headaches like this. I'm not borderline mentally ill. That's not only insulting, but absurd. I'm surprised someone who admitted they're mentally ill like yourself would casually throw that statement out to someone. That's not cool. Ultimately, you're drinking the Kool-Aid of a few toxic people who I noticed you've been drawn to lately. They will turn on you in time too, just as Dave did, which you'll figure out for yourself. I've been nothing but kind to you, and you've decided to go in a different direction lately for whatever reason. I don't appreciate adults who treat me like that, so I'm going to block you. But I wanted to give you an explanation first because I respected you. I thought you were cool, but I was wrong. You are simply looking to leech on to who you can to advance what you're doing in the wrestling world. I sincerely wish you the best of luck, Matt. Keep up the good work on your podcast and on working with kids through music, which is honestly really cool." Matt responds, "Wow. Okay, Brad. Nice. I've had people try to do this to me before. Take things I say or tweet out of context to make them seem like they're something that they aren't. Shepard may have been too trusting, but I find Matt's manipulation, lies, and overall lame attempt at a smear campaign to be far more offensive. And if I could offer him a slight bit of advice, I'd recommend he find a different hobby than diagnosing other people's mental illness. You might benefit from taking a long, hard look in the mirror sometime. Just some friendly advice, bud." Now, some of Brad's detractors are a little more, how could I say this, out of their fucking minds. Take a look at this email Brad received in September of 2019. This is from someone called Kill Yourself You Fuck. Email address yousuck@brad.com. Their comment, "Go fucking die in a hole, you piece of shit. I hope you get hundreds of these every day. People like you deserve the mental illness and the depression and the sickness good people fight with every day. You're a goddamn asshole. A megalomaniacal asshole. You're the reason good people deal with shit. Good people die every day, and you're expected to keep going just fine. Fuck you. I hope something awful happens to you so you can reflect and not be so damn awful at your job or at how you treat people." Well then, that's a totally normal response to somebody who reports on pro wrestling. You gotta love the IWC, such a welcoming place. That email was included in the following article on Pro Sports Extra written by Trev Stone, and it includes a comment from Brad. Let's take a look at a section of that article. If you'd like to read the entire thing, a link will be in the description. First off, how are you going to type all of that and decide to send it? Get a life. All over wrestling. You're going to send these emails? Wow. Low life. Second off, stop tagging me and sending me messages to fire Brad. Brad has a spot here for a long time. He's an awesome talent and we're glad he is here. He's here and for the long run. Remember all of that. I asked Brad about the situation, and here was his statement. The sheer stupidity of some pro wrestling fans never ceases to amaze. I'm pretty sure at this point I could write a book of the stories, insults, death threats, etc. I've actually started sharing some of it on the podcast for entertainment. Maybe one day they'll discover the fights are fake and pro wrestling is entertainment. Until then, the fun continues. And Trev finishes it off here with, keep your head up, Brad, and keep grinding. Everything I just presented, the baller situation, Matt Kuhn's deception, and the crazy email, it all stems from the question of whether or not Shepard has credible sources or just makes things up. Some of you're just not gonna like this, but yes, more likely than not, Brad Shepard does in fact have at least one credible source in the wrestling business, if not more. I'm not saying Shepard never made anything up. Maybe he has. There's no way for me to say with 100% certainty either way. All I'm saying is I've seen far more convincing proof that he does in fact have sources. In February or March of 2019, Shepard began contributing to Pro Sports Extra. This relationship lasted just over a year. On May 8, 2020, Trev Stone of Pro Sports Extra released the following statement to the website. When Brad Shepard reached out to me in January 2019, I noticed that he had this cult following, but also cult haters. I thought this was something that I would like and be able to run with. Brad and I shared many laughs during his time here at PSE, but I've also had to deal with a ton of craziness that comes with Brad. The amount of emails, tweets, and negativity around the Brad Shepard name is unlike anyone else. It's almost like a hated wrestler, but this internet content business isn't fake or staged. Since January 2019, he has posted less than 90 blogs. On certain days, he would retweet up to 5 times on the main PSE account. Brad's most viewed blog while being with PSE is less than 9,000 views. Not that views are all that matters, but for a guy who stirs the pot, the clicks should be a little more. To compare it, my top post over that time is around 120,000 views. Brad blocks everyone who hates him, which I mean, makes sense, but it's a tough look when it's more people than the ones who follow you. Brad started building our PSE wrestling group and it fell apart quicker than the AAF football league. I understand building a team is tough, but this was craziness. Some of the bloggers he brought in seemed fake. No profile pictures, and no blogs ever done by them. He removed his podcast from the PSE network very quickly and continued to have us promote it. No one inside wrestling seems to like him. All you see is when a pro wrestler tweets about Brad is something negative. If you follow PSE, you know that we've had a couple bloggers leave over the last month, which happens. Someone, and I'm not saying it's 100% Brad, started logging into these accounts and making crazy posts. From racist posts to posts saying that we are selling PSE. I wish Brad nothing but the best, but this time has been coming for a while. Brad will go down in PSE history. He's unlike many others, but is that a good thing? If you're willing to follow us now that Brad is gone, click here. Thank you. Cheers. Here is the diss track. Excuse me, what was that about a diss track? Oh, trust me. We'll get to that, but before we do, let's get Brad's side of the story. This is from Shepard's podcast, Oh You Didn't Know, from May 14th, 2020.
Trevor from the very beginning let me know that he was excited to have me on the team because I had strong credentials. Brad Shepard was coming into PSE with name recognition, which is something they really needed. From the moment I joined Pro Sports Extra, there was buzz. This site started to gain traction with fans who had otherwise never heard of them. Trevor was so impressed with my ability to get people just to react, or whatever I wrote. that he promoted me. He wanted me to develop the pro wrestling side of the business and continue to develop unique fans for the site. He also asked me to recruit more writers in my mold. But at some point, things started to unravel. As much as Trevor builds up people in the beginning, he flips the switch and unreasonably tears them down as well. Now, I've come to realize this is exactly why his turnover rate at the site is so high. Not long ago, he wrote a diss track about Maxwell Ogden from Fansided for hiring one of our writers, and literally said in that diss track, and I quote, "Maxwell Ogden, you can take all of them. We ain't going nowhere. We better than the rest of them. The ones who jump ship weren't meant to be here anyway. I'd take Brad Shepard over you any day." Why was he using me to take shots at Maxwell Ogden? It was crazy, and things continued to get worse. The site kept getting hacked and frequently went down. Trevor was barely paying people anything of substance. Hell, I made a whopping $222 in the 15 months I was there. Trevor continued to do unpredictable things, and it finally came to a head when, the day before I ended my business relationship with PSE, Trevor sent me a message asking if I had written a few articles which he had to delete. I had no fucking idea what he was even talking about. I'm at my day job at that point. And Trevor, a guy running a website, is asking me if I'd written articles which he needed to delete. Well, Trevor, it's your fucking site. Why don't you tell me? Mind you, he says this in a group chat in front of the rest of the team. He was attempting to insult me, humiliate me, and overall just make me feel less than human. Trevor was attacking me, and he was turning it into a spectacle for the entire team to witness. Apparently, someone under the account of a former writer wrote a few wrestling articles during the day which were inappropriate. I didn't see them, but they were talked about in our team chat, and based on what I was told, they were essentially articles containing literally a word or two, which included name calling, and this person apparently used a different picture for the Asuka article of a Japanese person. Again, I didn't actually see them because they were deleted, but that's what I was told. I didn't even have site permissions to create a new WordPress account for the new writers I'd hired, much less edit another user's account. And that aside, I wouldn't do something like that in an article because I have this little thing called integrity. Then on May 8th, I'd had enough. Enough of him not appreciating my work. Enough of him undermining me in front of the team. It started when he chastised me in front of the team on our group chat. And I quote, "Brad, you have been retweeting way too much of your own stuff on our main PSE page, like 4 times a day, without ever doing blogs. I'm getting messages from people who are fed up about it." None of that was true. I wasn't retweeting my personal stuff anywhere near 4 times a day on the main PSE Twitter account. And I'd just written an article the night before. Although as the lead manager, I had more significant duties than just writing articles. I wasn't retweeting my own personal things 4 times a day, and anyone can visit their Twitter account at ProSportsExtra and see that for themselves. I responded by asking if there was any reason he shared that in front of the team instead of handling it with me directly. And he said, it's because some of the changes he was getting, some of the messages were people in the team chat. You know, again, I don't know why they would care about that in the least, but I pointed out that by using this approach, he's created some drama amongst the team by sharing it with everyone, including most of the people who had no idea. He definitely thrives on creating drama because he believes it's good for business. I told him I've earned enough respect at this point for him or anyone to come to me directly with any questions or concerns, which led to him DMing me. At this point, I was ready to quit. And when I saw his first DM to me, I started typing my resignation. In his DM, he complained about getting hundreds of emails about me in a week from people saying they like PSE's content, but just won't click on anything else because of me. Then he accused me of dipping on the team right away, whatever that means, and then speculated that half the people I brought in to write were fake profiles. Then he claimed he received something about me every damn hour, quote unquote, and it's never positive. He says he respects me and likes that I dig deeper, that I keep grinding and don't give up. And then he circles back to retweeting things on the PSE Twitter and says he would have called anyone out for that. Let's be clear. His DM, like many things he says, is a complete lie. It's easy to lie when you have no integrity. And that's when I sent my resignation. I told him his accusations were 100% false and insulting. And considering the personal time and effort I've put into PSE and promoting PSE, it's not something I'll be able to forgive. I mentioned how there was a lot of writers coming and going, and I suggested, he look in the mirror because he can be his own worst enemy. I said, consider this my resignation from Pro Sports Extra. Then I said I have no desire to make this a public spectacle and wished him the best of luck. He said cheers, and I was hoping it was over. It wasn't. Immediately after my resignation, Trevor put out a phony hit piece article overloaded with lies and disinformation, and by doing that, he confirmed that I made the right decision. He was so butthurt, he changed the title of the article. It originally said I was no longer affiliated with Pro Sports Extra, and it was changed to me being officially fired, which, again, was a lie. His fragile ego was hurt, and he had to strike back. He knew it would do well with the wrestling Twitter audience who aren't fond of my work. He was aligning with my haters and using their hate of me for his benefit. This is the same person who less than a month ago wrote an article titled, "The Only People Who Are Mad About Brad Shepard's Wrestling Twitter After Dark Blog Is Ugly and Fat People," where he also said in the article I could cure coronavirus and people would still hate me, and he said I'm not going anywhere. I know he's likely to use the writers that are still there to watch me, attack me, and try to upset me. I have no hard feelings with the team. I'm simply disgusted with Trevor. The fact that Trevor is supposed to be a professional running a business and went public in the manner he did with me, even lying about me resigning when I had the conversation saved, should be the red flag of all red flags for anyone considering working for Pro Sports Extra going forward. It's unethical, it's unacceptable, and it shows he's anything but a professional.
And now, without any further ado, here it is. The whitest diss track in the history of our sport. I swear to God, brace yourselves, it's very, very white.
Hey, I got one more left in me. We all in quarantine! Anyway, so let's get it. It's only gonna get better from here, boy. You wanna say you resigned? But if you read the messages I told you, bye-bye. I told the world I would take Brad Shepard over you any day, but I lied. Now I look back and that was pretty lame. You really got upset that I called you out in front of the whole team? That's what leadership is. I hold you to a high standard. Now I'ma cook you up and serve you out on my platter. Didn't think I would drop a diss on you, did you, bro? But I kinda had to, though. Figured I'd put that backslider back into his cave. Your fake clickbait shit was getting pretty fucking lame.
I think he had a few too many syllables in that rhyme.
Only cared about yourself and not about a team. I feel like MLK because I got a fucking dream.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I feel like MLK because I got a fucking dream.
That's what I thought. I'm sure a white guy comparing himself to Martin Luther King will go over well.
Search your name all day. Great fake accounts. When I heard about that shit, I said, you're the most hated man on wrestling internet. It makes no sense because you get no clicks. What I heard is you got a little dick, cause the things you say don't add up. I would make that shit feel like a sad up if you don't want that shit back up. Same with that Fisher guy too. He can take his "Oh You Didn't Know" podcast and shove it where I would find you. We all know you're a 2-star podcast. Your most viewed blog has less than 10k clicks. It's about time PSC got off of Brad's dick. You promote your stuff all the fucking time.
Okay, that didn't even rhyme.
Now I'ma spit you out with a couple rhymes. You removed your pod from PSC real quick. Something about John was causing a fit. But who's laughing now? Check the views. If you don't believe me, check YouTube. Type in the Trev Stone Show. Just don't click on the episode where Brad Shepard blowed. But in reality, Brad, I wish you the best.
Who wishes someone the best in a diss track? This dude's weird.
I hope you end up at fan sided like the fucking rest. I've been grinding on this shit since I was a damn kid. I bleed PSE from the inside and out. And one more time, I'm about to fucking shout, fuck Brad Shepard, and that's what this is about.
Wait, I thought this was about the website. This is about fucking Brad? Do you want to fuck Brad? He's married to a woman.
Only cared about yourself and not about a team. I feel like I'm okay cause I got a fucking dream.
You just had to get it in there. One more time.
Search your name all day long, create fake accounts. When I heard that shit, I said it was time for you to bounce.
Let's just go to the conclusion. Brad Shepard leaves no one indifferent. I think that much is clear. He definitely rubs some people the wrong way, but he's also very aware of that. This isn't a DJ Storm situation where Shepard is hiding behind a gimmick. He is who he is, and there isn't much anyone on Twitter can do about that. Now, that's not to say that Shepard is a perfect little angel sent to us from above. I think he can be a little full of himself sometimes, and he can definitely come off as arrogant. Has he gotten some wrestling-related reports wrong? Sure, but even professional journalists get stories wrong sometimes. Saying that he makes stuff up, though, that's a stretch to me. If anyone out there has some definitive proof that didn't require a ton of omissions, then I'd love to see it, because I haven't so far. When it comes down to it, I think people pick and choose what they want to believe about Shepard, and there's a lot of that on the internet. I came into this video as neutral as I possibly could be, which wasn't necessarily an easy task considering that 98% of the feedback I got about Shepard was negative. I know some of you were expecting a burial here, but I simply can't do that with what I found or was presented with. I personally have no animosity with Shepard. He was polite and professional and very helpful during the research portions of this video. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to change anyone's mind about Shepard. I'm merely here to present what I found and to let you all make up your own minds. But, to be honest, I'm over this entire thing. All I want to do right now is listen to that sweet diss track!
You wanna say you resigned? But if you read the messages I told you bye-bye. I told the world I would take Brad Shepard over you any day, but I lied. Now I look back and that was pretty lame.
Thank you guys so much for watching part 2 of my video on Brad Shepard. It was definitely an interesting ride, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think. One thing I'm sure we can all agree on, though, that diss track was amazing. If you enjoyed the video and the things I do here on the channel, and you want to see these videos a little bit early, consider signing up to the Patreon. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.